What's happening, people? Welcome back to Out of the Loop. My name is LAR, and today we are going to be talking about groove and the emphasis of groove within your track. This is something that I think is incredibly important and kind of gets overlooked when it comes to production, especially when we're making melodic house and progressive house, because all that we're really thinking about is like the emotional intent, the melodies, and the journey that we're taking people on. But I think it's really important to also focus on groove because we are making dance music at the end of the day. It is melodic house, and house music is built for making people dance. So what I'm going to do today is just dive into a little idea or a little track that I've got where I think I've strongly emphasized the groove, and I just want to go through all the elements and show you how I've kind of made them talk to each other rather than just layering things on top of each other and hoping that it all kind of works. So let's dive into the track. So we'll play a little bit of it. I'll play from here to around here where this melody comes in, because the melody is where I think a lot of people can tend to go wrong when they start adding an element in and they can confuse the groove. So let's go from here. Alright, so that about shows everything that's kind of working in the track. That's pretty much everything that I have in this track so far. But you'll notice that the groove is very strong in this track. Well, I hope that you notice it. At least I think it is. And the people that I've sent it to think that the groove is strong. So that's why I wanted to go over it. And I'm going to go over each of the elements now and just kind of see what's going on and like how they're talking with each other. So I think I started the track with the kick. Possibly I started with the bass, I'm not sure. But I think I started with this kick. And with the kick, I have these kind of double hits in here and little I don't know what they're called, but just extra hits. So it's not just a straight fall to the floor. We do have these additional like almost tom hits. So yeah, that's kind of starting things off right with the kick. And so then anything that I'm adding on top of that, which was possibly the drums next, is I need to be thinking, okay, I need them to kind of talk around this groove. So let's go into the drums. Okay, so the drums are a little bit busy. There's quite a bit in them. Nothing too crazy, but there's quite a bit in them. But I've still managed to make them cohesive and groove nicely. We've got these layers here, but then if we look on the layers where I've programmed in the drums, and this is where I think some people can go wrong when they're putting in their MIDI, is just making it a little bit confusing. So say if we look at just this, which is just a shaker rack. And what you might be able to hear is just these little additional hits. So a typical shaker groove would be possibly without this. It would just be like this. Right? And then I've added in these little hits which are hitting on the same notes as that tom hit or the additional kick hit. Right, just these little hits, and they're just helping to emphasize that groove a bit more. And if we go down to some further drum programming here, so this is kind of the perk group, and let's have a listen to it. In fact, yeah, we'll listen to it on its own. You'll see how random it feels, but then when I play it with everything, it doesn't. Right, and let's have a listen with the kick. Right? So they're talking with each other. There's little phrases in there with the drums, but there's nothing too crazy or confusing. It's all kind of like working with each other. And all the other additional elements in here, say like things like this, they're just to emphasize onto those hits. So we'll play it again all together. All right, so you can hear that, you know, they're all talking with each other. And then additionally, I am adding in groove, which I'll just move my fat face out of the way. There we go. So this is the groove that I use. I tend to use MPC 3016 with this 68. And what you might find is if you put this directly onto things, the timing might be very strong. So bring the timing down and then bring the quantize up. And that way you're going to get something that's not too swingy. Otherwise it's a little bit like reggae or it's just, yeah, it's a bit too much. So yeah, that's what I use onto everything in the track, not just the drums. Everything in the track has this swing on. All right. And that really helps a lot as well. All right. So now let's talk about the bass. I'll just play it with the kick and drums. All right, so the first thing we'll just look at is the stab real quick. Just take this off and we'll listen to the stab with the other things in the track, so that with the drums and with the kick, and try to listen how they're kind of complementing each other rather than just kind of sitting on top of each other and not really talking with each other. So these are essentially layering on top of some perk kit that I've done here. I think it's this one, this rack here. So they're layering nicely on top of each other. And, you know, because they're sitting differently in the frequency range, we have this which is nice and low and deep. And other elements are in the mid-range to high range. So they're not going to be, you know, in the way of each other. You're going to be able to hear them nice and clearly. And then if we look at the sub part of this, I'll just bring this back on. So this main bass, which I've called sub, is talking with this stab. So it's not actually playing on top of each other, it's playing in between. So let's have a listen. Right, so you can hear that they're not, you know, getting in the way of each other. It's all like a big conversation. It's all a nice big phrase that complements each other. It's really important that you do that. I can't stress that enough. If you're just putting things like like what I could have done is I could have had these notes here. See this note? It could have just lengthened out here, and it would have played on top of where this stab is. Same here. It could have played on top of that, but it's a lot more groovy if you just kind of leaving gaps for each other. So really try to listen to the other elements that you've added in your track and see how they're talking with each other. All right, so the next parts I want to look at is just these little blips and stabs here and there. So we'll just play these or solo them so you hear them. Again, they sound kind of random on their own, but if you listen to them in the groove, in context, so they're just sitting nicely into these little spaces and pockets that I've got left in the sound or within the phrase. So they're not really sitting on top of anything that I have here. I'm leaving room for the main kind of thing, which is this bass melody, but they're just kind of sitting, in a good little spot to just emphasize things. So these aren't anything too crazy or anything too interesting, but they do help with the groove. But let's go down to the pluck now, which comes in a little bit later on. Initially, it comes in kind of on the same groove as the stab, with additional little notes here, and the additional little notes are to complement these notes within the melody, within the bass melody. Like I said before, they're sitting in a different frequency range. So this melody here, let's just play it before I talk about it. So you can hear that it's a little bit higher up. It's in the maybe like 500 hertz, a little bit higher than that, maybe a bit lower. But it's not sitting in the bass frequencies, which are in the 30 hertz to 300 hertz. So this is important that I'm thinking about that, rather than if they were sitting on top of each other, then I probably wouldn't layer them so much, because it would just get a little bit messy. But this is now kind of just playing almost like a higher octave onto this bass melody here. So let's just play this with the groove. Well, I guess I can just unsolo everything now. I think the majority of the things are in. So if we go down here where the melody evolves a little bit, and then I'll talk about that, because that's where I think a lot of people can kind of go wrong. So let's just have a listen. Okay, so the main thing to focus on here is that this melody is talking with that bass groove, as the bass groove is kind of like the hook of the track. It's like the big main thing in the track. So let's listen to this with, say, the kick and then the pluck. Just even this first phrase here, you can hear that I've left space for these stabs, especially here. There's a big gap in the melody here, but it doesn't feel weird. It kind of feels like it's talking with each other, as I keep saying. And even here, so see with this initial bass melody here, there's a gap, and then the melody starts. And as this melody goes up, that's as this bass melody goes up at the same time. All right. Okay, so it's really important that you do that. I've made a little section where I made an ARP instead. So rather than doing this, because I think what a lot of people will do is kind of cop out with their melody and just do like a simple ARP or something like that, which a lot of the time doesn't really talk with anything else. It's just something that plays over the top of things. So let's have a little listen here where I've done an ARP. I'm playing the same notes, so it should all sound in key, but it might not sound as cohesive. Obviously, I've made the ARP pretty boring. Like I could have put some variants on there, but what I wanted you to listen to and kind of hear is just the fact that you now can't really focus on the groove. You can't really hear the things in the track. Let's unsolo and play with everything. It's a lot harder to groove to as opposed to here. That way you kind of like, it automatically makes you want to bop your head. Obviously this is a terrible, boring ARP, but I just wanted to emphasize on that fact that, you know, if you just had something that's just repeating over and over, even though this sounds quite nice on its own. it's a pretty sound and a pretty art, but it just doesn't really talk with anything else in the track. So yeah, I think I've gone over quite a lot here, and I hope this was helpful and educational for you guys, and I'm not just rambling on. I'm hoping to try and get this track signed. I've just sent it off to Injuna, so hopefully it gets signed. We shall see. But yeah, sorry that I don't upload so often, guys. I will try to keep up with the videos. Just been a bit of a busy life at the minute. If you guys want any one-on-one sessions or any of my sound design, check out the links down below. I do one-on-one sessions through Patreon and also through my website. It's currently half price because of Black Friday, so now is a good time to check that stuff out. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this one, guys. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.